This is Maureen Hagan. I am a regional vice president with Salesforce. And just to check, Charlotte, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you. And just by way, I just wanted to introduce Salesforce to you all for joining today. And I do want to just thank everyone so much for joining today. We have a great lineup of speakers today, and you will also be hearing from two of our existing customers who have done digital transformation and digital citizen services using the Salesforce platform. And I would also like to thank our partners who are our co-hosts for this meeting today, Carahsoft and Panelist, who are two of our most trusted partners out there today. So just a quick disclaimer is that sometimes in these presentations, we do speak about visionary content, visionary technology content, and just to be aware that anything that is visionary or forward looking is nothing that you should take any action on or make any financial decisions based on forward looking statements that we make. Just by introduction of Salesforce, if any of you have picked up the Wall Street Journal in the last 5 years or traveled at one of our major airports out there, you have probably seen this graphic somewhere along the line, but Salesforce is the global leader in CRM, customer relationship management software, by far, and we're ranked by IDC, and we have also been ranked #1 CRM for several years by Gartner as well. And that platform is really what we use to help our customers do complete digital transformation, leveraging everything starting with our CRM platform, which you're going to hear more about today. So how does Salesforce help in the public sector? Well, we take that CRM platform and we have that's been trusted by organizations worldwide to be the foundation for your digital government. A couple reasons why customers select Salesforce is not only being a very trusted provider and a steward of your data, we have a very high return on investment and time to value. In most cases, we can stand up a new platform and have it live within 1 month. And on average, our customers see 170% return on investment. Because we are a cloud-based software as a service provider, our platform is very flexible and scalable. And this was extremely important and valuable this past year during the worldwide pandemic. Being able to scale up services and visibility of data in real time and be able to provide real-time data analytics, including our Tableau platform that was used by most health organizations as a dashboard for the source of truth, was extremely important and valuable in these challenging times. So it has become the most respected platform to be able to scale into the public cloud, especially in times like this. So as I mentioned, the world has changed and it's not changing back. With the world changing and what we saw with unprecedented demand for online services, not only for government, but in e-commerce as well. That expectation is becoming clearly the new norm. So citizens' expectations have changed as well. In the past, people were tolerant and accepted paper-based manual processes, showing up in person to request service. But in an era where everything had to pivot to contactless, people no longer want that. They expect services to be available online. They want data and information 24/7, and they want it available on any device, anywhere, at any time. And they want to be able to also access and request services in a self-service manner, which is what they're used to doing in an online world today. So this has become what we call the connected citizen experience that most of our government customers are seeking today and that their citizens are beginning to demand. So this really brings about what we call the digital imperative, is moving to a connected government. And this is moving and faster than ever before. A shift to online communication, digital outreach, support not only for your citizens, but for your employees, and being able to have real-time access to information from your field service technicians to people on the front line interacting with citizens to be able to make real-time decisions that are data-driven decisions. So today, our presentation content is going to focus specifically on the Salesforce Cloud for 311, how you can leverage that platform for an entire connected digital experience that enables all of these services that you see here, including case management, knowledge-based information services that people can access, community outreach through digital communications, and social engagement outreach through our omni-channel platform that we've perfected for most of the e-commerce world that you interact with today. Those same level of services that we provide in e-commerce world, we can also provide to the connected citizen and to the connected government. So this is what we're going to be proud to share with you today through our partners. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Charlotte so we can go into the rest of the content.
Thank you, Maureen. Now I would like to introduce you to our panelist speakers for this afternoon. Tim Smith, Managing Principal and COO of Catalyst Consulting, Gary York, Divisional Head and Director of 311 for the City of Toronto, and Derek Brownlee, Managing Deputy CIO for the City of Chicago Department of Innovation and Technology.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlotte. And thank you so much, Maureen, and Salesforce and Carousel for your partnership over the years. Welcome to everyone to today's webinar. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here with what I consider to be, really two titans of the industry. Quick introduction for myself. My name is Tim Smith, Principal and Chief Operating Officer at Catalyst Consulting Group. Catalyst was the system integrator that implemented the City of Chicago's 311 solution built on the Salesforce platform back in 2018, 2019 timeframe. And we're now currently the partner working with the City of Toronto implementing their Salesforce-based 311 solution as well. With me today, I have Gary York and Derek Brownlee. And, Derek and Gary's roles are a bit different, but nonetheless of critical importance to the success of their respective projects. And I was going to give Derek and Gary a opportunity to do a quick introduction of themselves. Derek, I think we should show our neighbor to the north a bit of Midwestern hospitality and let him go first. So Gary, go ahead.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. My name is Gary York, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share and communicate our journey, share our findings, and some of the enthusiasm that we have with this partnership. At the end of the day, we're an organization that's looking to grow and expand. We're 11 years old, and we realize that it's time to get to the 21st century and embrace the digital world. And this particular partnership really enhances the customer-centric focus and the ability to connect with the resident. So the one thing I would like to just reinforce is when we actually talk about 311 Toronto, what have you, with our residents, we're always call 311 on with all the nomenclature that we send out, the medium, what have you. We've socialized the public in the last 11 years to just call us, pick up the phone and call us. And with this new initiative, and also with COVID, the connection, especially the digital connection, has accelerated tremendously. So I'm hoping that we could share some of those findings and look forward to our conversations together. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you so much, Gary. And Derek, over to you. Oh, I don't think we can hear you, Derek. Hey, Derek, I don't think we can hear you.
Hi, Derek. I think you're on mute.
Nope. Derek, let's give you a second to troubleshoot the microphone. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and move on with the rest of the agenda and see if you can maybe troubleshoot that for a second here. All right. But just kind of moving forward, both of these guys have had a significant role to play in establishing the vision for what their modernized 311 systems would and should be, and what value those systems will be providing to their respective cities. We entitled this webinar "The Tale of Two Cities" due to the fact that Toronto and Chicago have these sort of wonderful similarities. Both cities are large urban environments. Both sit right on a very large body of water, similar population counts, significant amounts of diversity in their urban DNA. And, just really for all intents and purposes, Chicago and Toronto are considered sister cities. Hopefully this discussion will help our audience with, future decisions as they relate to 311 modernization and transformation initiatives. And, we hope that this is a valuable experience for you here today. Kind of jumping into sort of the fireside chat, as we call it, we're going to get into a few sort of just conversational topics to talk about as it relates to 311 modernization and transformation. And so I was going to sort of start off with the kind of the grill in the room, which is, 311 and its role within the global pandemic. And so, I think what we'd like to talk about here for a few minutes is just sort of how the role of 311.
I can't hear anything.
Now I got you. Derek, you're good now.
All right, here we go.
Okay, cool. So how the role of 311 has changed since the onset of the global pandemic. New challenges and operational considerations were really, for the most part, thrust upon the world as the pandemic set in. And I think I want to talk just for a few minutes about, how did these environmental influences affect your 311 operations? And so I was going to kind of kick this over to Gary first and foremost to talk for a couple minutes, and then we'll have Derek talk for a minute or two.
Sure, thank you. And I really appreciate the question. The first thing is the priority came in terms of our business model itself. We'd reside at Metro Hall, which is central to downtown. We'd actually be co-located in that particular building. Because of COVID and concerns and health-related concerns, we quickly had to pivot and work with technology services and what have you to make sure we can be remote. So within several days, we moved from a workforce that's about 185 reps that are physically in the building to completely remote and actually able to still function. Because we're from a city's perspective and from a cultural perspective, remote working wasn't necessarily seen as a positive thing, especially for non-management. And COVID has really allowed people to change and pivot their perceptions of trust and value. And what we've been able to do as an organization through COVID, which I think is fantastic, from a service level performance perspective, we're supposed to manage, we have an 80%, within 80%, our calls have to be managed within 75 seconds. And within COVID, not only did we exceed that service level, we did 83% of our service level, which is fantastic. We spent over about 4.4 million minutes servicing our residents during COVID. And a lot of the focus, especially during COVID, yes, was around service requests and assets and what have you, but more about concerns, public health. So our role, moving from reporting a pothole to talking about vaccinations, about health concerns, safety issues, PPE, just really becoming that human connection and face of the city was vital during this time. So moving from good to great, the performance is always there. It's been there for a period of time, but leveraging this technology and looking at COVID and seeing that the role of 311 really evolved from that as, talking about assets and things of that nature, to also representing the pulse. And we can push communication bi-directionally now and really talk about the vaccinations, access to counters, and even back to counters, because the counters being closed and what have you. We know that in this new norm, the interaction physically with people will change. That doesn't mean it will stop. But one of the reasons that we're also embracing this new technology, new platform, is to leverage it and enhance that digital experience at the counter. So in terms of getting that 360 view of that particular resident, and people are now more open to that, given the fact that we haven't opened counters for almost a year now, and the fact that we're still able to function and do business in a productive manner has been really, really exceptional. And I'm just thinking, I'm very excited now to think of, on top of what we've been able to do within this environment with COVID, and then think of the work that we're doing in terms of the social media, and also the digitization of touch points. For example, the work that we're doing together, the 650 odd services or service request types that we normally manage, only 100 of them were digitized before. Now with this initiative, all 650 are digitized. So in terms of the work, it's a very significant endeavor. It's a multi-million-dollar endeavor that takes over a year to implement. But we're very excited about committing to customer service and being that voice of the customer and being that advocate of the customer internally around delivery of service, but also communicating to our residents about public safety, public health, perception, even how we deal with suicide calls and things of that nature. Will always change and evolve. Yes, with the solution and technology, but also with the processes. So, it's really exciting to talk about Salesforce and what we're doing together as an organization, but also it's only as good as your processes and your vision, your leadership that comes along with it. It's a fantastic tool and platform, but if you don't invest in the processes, which we've spent a lot of time looking at, we wouldn't get the return of investment that we're really looking at. So I think it's a fantastic journey and really becomes that social connection and that trusted voice and trust and confidence within the public that I'm really excited, and the learnings that we've had from COVID.
Awesome. A great answer. Great answer. And Derek, you back online now?
Yes, I believe you can hear me now.
Awesome. Do you want to just double back and do a quick introduction?
Yeah, Derek Brownling, Managing Deputy CIO with the City of Chicago here. I was primarily responsible for the oversight of the 301 implementation, moving from a 20-year-old application system to a new 301 platform. It was a pretty huge task because we had 18 city departments that were involved and 4 sister agencies, which is what we call the Chicago Transit Authority, schools, parks, and public housing. And Tim, I think I recall, was over 250 bureaus within the 311 family. And also looking at a system that annually receives over 3 million service requests. A significant amount of those service requests, well over 60% in some cases, was all attributed to information. 311 for the city of Chicago is the information gateway. The unique position that we were in, particularly, just moving to COVID for a second, 311 really didn't need to be responsive in the areas of what constituents needed. For instance, we had a number of seniors who were having a very difficult time being able to get to the grocery stores, be it that it was a physical accommodation that they weren't able to make or just transportation. In partnership with our mayor's office, the 311 Center, and Tim, I believe within 72 hours, Tim, we were able to create a whole new service request type, be able to partner with a community-based organization to where we were able to distribute over 15,000 food boxes. Historically, with our previous system, it probably would have taken us 2 to 3 weeks just to build that service request, do the testing, move it to production, and so forth. So the blessing for us is that we were in a position to turn on the dime. That was critical to our constituents who need to know where contact tracing sites were. Again, 311 is the front door for the city of Chicago citizens. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll get into some more content about the flexibility of the platform, but that speed in bringing a new service or a new piece of functionality to market is just really so huge as it relates to the platform. So thank you very much, Derek. Moving on, sort of the concept of communication and trust. And I think we've all started to really realize the value of how important outbound proactive communication and updates are to the constituents, and how that relates to the end-to-end 311 service delivery process. And also how a well thought out 311 solution can develop a stronger trusting government and really foster and facilitate that relationship and communication between constituents and the government that serves them. So, Derek, do you want to jump in on this one first and just kind of talk about sort of, how this system really helped sort of close the gap on those communications with constituents and really help to build a better experience and a more trustful experience?
Yeah, we knew from previous feedback from our constituents that the lack of bi-directional communication was a problem. One thing that we did within the implementation of 311 was that we directly worked with the community members in various ways, from having planning sessions with them, to having terminology sessions with them, to having them help us test ADA compliance, colors, fonts, and letting them vent. Sometimes we don't allow our constituents to vent because we just think they're complaining, and they're not. They're often bringing an issue to us, and we need to recognize that and treat it as such. And so we involve the community in all of the aspects that we could. I believe, Gary, in our system, we had 591 total service requests. We were able to get that down to 256. And we did that in partnership with not only the departments, but the community. There was a lot of redundancy with some of the service requests. There was terminology that certain constituents, it just did not make sense to them. We had animal care and control, for instance, affected 3 different departments: animal care and control, police, and streets and sanitation. So often you didn't know which way to go. So we were able to work with the community and create these categories. If you go to our community portal, you'll see our service requests are labeled by category. That was actually a direct result of the work that we did with the community. You can have all the great IT systems in the world. If your end users are not taking advantage of it, then you know that's really hard work for that. The mobile aspect of this, they want to be able to be on the fly. They want to be able to take pictures. I think to Marine's point earlier, they want mobile when they want it, how they want it, and how often. And so we had to take that into consideration. We were able to create more avenues to submit requests. So having a community engagement part of that on the front end, and we have a continuous feedback loop as well, has been very, very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. And Gary, how about communication in the world of 311 in Toronto?
Well, internally, I think, first of all, establishing better relationships with our internal partners and have a mutual goal or outcome in mind, I think, is one of the things that helped us or helping us being successful, because we haven't fully implemented as of yet. Hopefully, we're looking to implement by Q3. The biggest thing that we modified or changed our approach is because we're 45 unique divisions within the city of Toronto. Although we're one city, we do act, or we previously acted as 45 unique siloed entities. With the new leadership and the new spirit, the enterprise really means something else. So in many cases in the past, we developed from inside out. We assumed that because the division had to function a certain way, residents must interact with the city said way. That's now completely flipped. We're now looking from an outside-in perspective and really understanding the needs and wants of our residents, and moving from a multi-channel environment, which we were, into an omni-channel environment where they choose how they want to interact with the city, in which channel, and we make sure that the ability to close the loop on those particular instances are solid, and the ability to complain, provide accolades, and push out information is also key. The other thing that we're really focused on is your knowledge base and content, for 2 reasons. One, communication is really important for our agents as well. We can't ask our agents to provide great service if they don't have the appropriate tools and information and data. And what this platform allows us to do through a very purposeful manner is to provide credible information to our residents in very, very ready, real time. And in terms of the touch points and the length of that interaction is decreased tremendously. More importantly, on the flip side, our residents now can access all the 13,000 or actually 15,000 elements of content to service them in the way that they want it. So it's now, even though we already have about a 3.3 million number of interactions from the public when it comes to a self-serving perspective, that self-serving experience or self-service experience is not where it needed to be. And we're very confident now with the methodology that we've implemented or will be implementing, will definitely meet the customer's needs because we've engaged the residents to find out their perspectives and make sure that's closely intertwined with how we deliver and create these particular services.
Yeah, and communication is key, and both internal and external. So thank you guys so much for your comments and statements on that. Moving into another sort of topic of discussion, right on the heels of Black History Month and International Women's Day was just very recent. Let's talk a little bit about equity and inclusion as it relates to 311. And, a modernized 311 solution can be a really powerful tool to support the equitable delivery of services to constituents. There's a lot of different needs across a large urban environment like the city of Chicago and the city of Toronto. And so, can we talk a little bit about, the impact that 311's had on, really delivering and rendering services to the constituents and the general public in a much more equitable and fair manner. And also maybe a little bit on some of those BI and analytics tools that help drive some of those decisions to help, once again, transform process and transform, continuous improvement on that service delivery approach. Gary, do you want to go first?
Sure, thank you. In terms of Black History Month and what have you, one of the mandates that we have as an organization from the city is to really focus on the Black community and make sure that they have a voice and access to the city. And in many cases in the past, it wasn't consistent, it wasn't clear. And one of the things that we've done are working through with the city and our stakeholders is to make sure, especially the Black community, is able to enter and communicate their concerns through 311 in a concerted effort. So not only are we looking to revisit how the complaints process looks like from a city perspective, but it has a specific BIPOC lens on it, especially with the Black community, to make sure the inequity issues, there is some concerns there in terms of some of the institutions that they interact with, maybe how they've interacted with enforcement, things of that nature as well. We want to make sure that there are options and avenues for our residents to communicate and hold the city accountable to addressing certain issues. So that's very key. When we look at also just in terms of safety and what have you, the demographics of the people who actually use the 311 has drastically transformed as well. In many cases in the last several years, well, let's say the last 10 years, there've been people in their 40s or a little bit older that have homes that actually interact with 311. Well, that's changed. People are now savvy and they're actually corporate citizens. So they hold and they have pride of their city. That means when they see an acid or a pothole or something that's not functioning properly within the city, they want to make sure that they have the means to communicate and have it addressed. So not only do we want to make sure they have options, but we want to be concerned in terms of focusing on the Black community to make sure that they have access. And beyond that, in terms of inclusion, in many cases, people that had affluence in many cases before utilized 311. The folks that had a powerful voice, depending on the areas that they lived in, utilized 311 to get things what they wanted for themselves or their community. That has to change. So now that means we service not just people that are of affluence, we're here to service everyone. And in some cases, folks that weren't comfortable or had trust in the city before now have an avenue to hold the city accountable to addressing their issues, because now there's a paper trail. There's actually a service request that's created with their issue, their incident, and with the service level in which we have to address it by a certain time frame. So I just think in terms of accountability and trust, that has definitely increased with COVID and our initiatives. And from a BIPOC perspective, it's definitely affected there. And from another perspective, it's really important that not only do we make sure our society has a voice, but we also have opportunities for all the members in our society. So our management team needs to be reflective of that. Our staff needs to be reflective of that. And also our public needs to be comfortable that knowing someone on the other end understands their journey, be it male, female, old, young, or what have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Derek, how about on your end as well? And also maybe touch a little bit on some of those analytics tools that the city of Chicago implemented to really support those initiatives.
Yeah, from my perspective, all of the work that we did on 311 was done by MBE WBEs. As a matter of fact, two of the major players were involved were African-American firms. And one of the most important components of that was the whole community engagement. I'm going to take a bit of a different spin here in saying that as far as the 311, with the community engagement feedback that we were getting, we realized there was a lot of miseducation about what 311 was and what it did and who it was for. In particular, the difference between our seniors and our young people was that young people thought that the 311 system was only for homeowners. And so that's why they never used it. So we took a different spin on creating the equity by educating the community on what 311 did and who it was for and what was the whole process behind that. And that has helped drive, as a result, we've seen an influx of service requests coming in from our Apple users and our Android users to reduce the pressure on the actual 311 operators so that those calls are not necessarily being filtered through the operators, allowing them to service their frontline calls in a much more different way. So as part of this process, we created a number of dashboard reports. We're in the process of utilizing the wave analytics and moving into the AI world, which we're not quite there yet, but we're moving that way because now the departments have access to real-time information. So they know where their priority areas are. This data allows them to schedule and dispatch in a very different way. I also met with every single alderman. There's 50 aldermen here in Chicago to make them part of that process. So, like I said, we took an educational approach to this because I could not compare the historical data in the old CSR system to the data that we now collect. So it was a whole change management approach that we looked at. And so now we can look at equity through a different lens and not just be so word of mouth, but we can be more factual about it because we know where the service requests are coming in, we know what time they're coming in, and we know what type, and we know how long they've been out there and whether or not they've been serviced. So by being able to look at those performance metrics, we can look at them across the board in a much more holistic way. And they can do all this stuff on their mobile devices as well. It doesn't require them to call me and get a report.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, data's king, and having empirical data that's collected in a very sort of granular manner through the system that then supports decision making as it relates to a number of different applications, including inclusion and equity and diversity, is just such a powerful kind of byproduct of these systems. And I think
but I would like to add, just to be clear about this, this is a huge cultural change management process that we're talking about here. You're just not changing the culture of the constituents, you're changing the internal work culture as well that is not used to seeing the type of data that they see every day. They're learning and growing and getting better at it. There's no magic solution to this outside of the fact the more data you get into the system, the better the system will learn, the better the end users will learn how to take advantage and dispatch and schedule, when people call off work or people retiring. To Gary's point, the knowledge content that we were able to add on the front end took so much pressure off of the 301 operators because they had binders of paperwork that they were using to give out information to constituents. And now it's right there at their fingertips. They can email it, they can PDF it, whatever it is that they do. But I don't want to underestimate the change management that comes along with this process.
Absolutely. Huge cultural shifts, huge operational shifts, so many different variables that come into play. And so with that complexity, receiving the service request is kind of the easy part, right? As you pass that service request downstream to back-end work order management systems and the individuals that actually render and deliver service to the constituent, that's really where the rubber meets the road. And that's really where the complexity in these 301 processes come into play. Can you guys talk a little bit about, and I think it dovetails very nicely into change management, sort of how transformation and modernization through 311 also sort of drives this new look at how all of these different pieces of the puzzle and all these different pieces of the organization have to work in concert with each other to ultimately provide the highest levels of customer service to the citizen. Gary, maybe you want to start?
Sure. I really appreciate the question. That's why I'm really excited about that question, because it's more than a 311 conversation. This is the city of Toronto committing now to do things differently and to look at things differently through a customer-centric lens. So when we're looking at a 301 organization, in our 301, and they can be debated, but we do have a lovely title of being one of the most integrated networks from a 301 perspective in North America. So we already had that infrastructure, but it was on a legacy infrastructure. So the challenge that we're doing right now is on the front end, we're definitely forcing change and evolution and accountability, but we're also forcing change on the back end and change management overall in terms of accountability. So in many cases in the past, I mean, maybe even the present, but not in the future, it's about who owns the data. And because we're 20 or 45 different siloed organizations, there were previously many debates and a lot of tension around the owner of that information. With this transformation that we're working on, and if we do it properly, the resident owns their data. The city has to be a steward of that data, yes, but the resident now becomes empowered equally or even more importantly than the government, which is a fantastic thing in itself. In regards to what do we do with our divisions, the biggest thing that I see that comes along with this particular transformation is accountability. So in terms of service level, we have clear expectations now from a public perspective in terms of what they can expect when they've interacted with the city. And now from an accountability perspective, the division in question knows that they're accountable to providing that service in a set amount of time, or not only will they be notified, but the city manager is going to be notified, the residents going to be notified, the mayor is going to be notified as well. So in terms of delivery, that accountability, that paradigm shift is there. Having said that, I don't want to make it sound like we're not doing a very good job at the city. I always use that commentary around moving from good to great. From a service level accountability and delivery, the overall services associated with that relationship with 301 in the city is around 82% of overall deliverable of their services. So they're doing a fairly good job. Are we communicating it better? Or we could communicate better 100%, but delivery is still there. Now there's visibility and accountability against that delivery. So in terms of increasing that trust, that level of trust and confidence with our public is huge by holding our internal groups accountable. On top of that, when we talk about our service around our counters and the customer service journey from division to division, now we become an integrated perspective on how that customer is being serviced, be it a case management issue when it comes to maybe child or safety or things of that nature, or to an asset associated with a city asset or to their home. So that whole overall experience and accountability takes a very new dynamic a step up. But most importantly, I just want to make sure accountability.
Thank you so much. Derek, just sort of that complexity and that handoff between, the front end customer service function and then the back end service delivery function.
I think that was probably one of the most exciting parts of this project, because we did not have a work order management system that was standardized across the board. And having access to that information is where you find out where your operational efficiencies are, and sometimes where your operating gaps are. So when we implemented the whole work order management system on the back end, as Gary was talking about the front end, the back end for us was being able to know exactly where that service request was, who was assigned to, and how long it had been, out there. In certain cases, it had us asking, are we asking the right questions on the front end? And because we didn't have a work order management system, we had to make some assumptions in certain areas. But now, as a result of the work order management system, teams at Graffiti can actually tell you, what type of equipment they need. And certain graffiti requires 6 feet equipment, certain requires 12 feet, equipment. If you miscommunicate that, then you're just sending people out, with the wrong tools. And now the service request is not getting done and we've wasted, valuable time. So the data that we are being able to look at, departments can now see it even when they come back and challenge me, Derek, we don't want to do it like this anymore. We want to make this change. We wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't have that data in front of us. And ultimately, what I know from everybody is that most public service that I know are extremely committed, and nothing makes them happier than saying that their citizens' requests are getting done. And that was a story that we're now able to tell in a very different way, because it's very easy to take a punitive approach and forget about all of the good work, that the workers are doing, and that many people are trying their best to make it better. So the work order management system has opened those departments up to that information, and they're making adjustments, and they're challenging me and they're challenging themselves. So it's been a learning experience, but it's been a very positive learning experience for us.
Absolutely. Getting that feedback is by far the most rewarding component of all that. When the citizen is happy with the service they receive, that's got to be ultimately rewarding to you folks.
In some cases, Tim, I have to be honest, and when we met with some of the community members, they wanted a mechanism to be able to say thank you. So, but if you don't have that in place, they can't say, hey, Tim Smith, thank you. You guys, put my new garbage carts in. There's a lot of constituents that were out there, and they wanted to, and they wanted to make that point. Not everything is negative around a lot of the work that we do, and frankly, public service workers often need to hear that. We can't necessarily give them a big raise, but being able to give them positive feedback from the constituents is critical to me.
Yeah, means the world. Awesome. So we're getting close on time. Last one, just one very quick point from both of you guys. If you had to give some practical advice to those who may be in attendance here today that are looking to potentially transform or modernize 311, and I know it's tough, one piece, but what one piece of advice would you give them? And let's start with Gary.
The first thing I would say is have a look at your processes and what have you. And I would also recommend the Spark if you're going partnering with Salesforce and what have you. That's a very good approach, a strategic approach, and have some thick skin and be prepared to transform your business.
Thank you so much. And Derek, one piece of practical advice for the audience if they're going to embark on this journey.
Create a governance steering committee with your key players so that you can standardize this process. Valuable, just that, because then as an IT person, you're not cramming it down their throat. No, this was a joint venture, and that's how we approached it. We had monthly governance steering committee, Tim's, which your team attended those meetings. So if I had not put that in place and just made this, you were implementing an IT solution, I would have never have gotten this project done. Never.
And just one point, sorry, just to that point, because that's where our roles differ a bit. I'm the head of the division, but I'm not the head of IT. So our CIO, who is very, very essential in terms of that partnership to making it successful, that was a very key thing as well. This is more like a business decision that had a lot of stakeholder engagement, and more importantly, our due diligence. So we've made sure that we vetted this technology and we tried and tested it in a phased approach before committing to it in the holistic manner that we have.
Yeah, and to Gary's point, it was at that point in time, the IT department and 311, which is led by my partner in crime, Audrey Mathis here. And so we were the two heads, but we were linked up at the hips. To Gary's point, he's obviously very close with the CIO. From a business perspective, that's what it took to get this project, accomplished.
Absolutely. Partnership is the key. Teamwork makes the dream work. So, guys, Thank you so much. I cannot express the professional respect and personal respect I have for the both of you and your partnership. It's been truly an inspiring journey to work on these projects with both of your respective teams. So that's going to conclude sort of the fireside chat section of this webinar. And we are going to hand things back over to some folks from the Catalyst team to do a really quick demonstration on some core capabilities of the Salesforce platform as it relates to 311. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And Gary and Derek, thank you once again so much for your time. And Maureen, thank you for the partnership from Salesforce, as well as yourself, Charlotte, and Carousel.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Over to you, Sarah.
Awesome, thanks. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, is everyone able to hear me? I'll just assume, okay, great. So thanks everyone. So I am going to walk us through a quick demo of our 301 solution. So I will start with kind of the agent intake side. So an agent, getting a call, taking down all the required information, and actually closing out that work. And then we'll transfer over to the community portal side, where we'll see exactly what a customer sees from their side, as well as how they can go ahead and submit an intake on their own without the help of 301. So we will get started. First, I'm gonna type in our problem here, which is graffiti, which actually just talking about, so perfect timing there. So I've typed in my problem type. Over here on the right, you can see that I have returned a knowledge article for the graffiti removal procedure. As Toronto and Chicago both have a very large volume of services that they're offering. So this is really helpful for 301 agents to help them service the customers, even though they might not have 100% of the information on all the different services that are offered by the city. Next, I will go ahead and enter in an address. So we are going to be journeying to Indianapolis today. So I've got my address here. And as I scroll down, you can see that the map has updated to reflect the point that I just selected. And we see a little marker on here for a 1. So on the back end, what our system is doing is it's basically running a query against all the existing work in the system to see if there is already existing work there. If there is already existing work, a duplicate, we don't want to send extra work, downstream to the systems or to be managed within Salesforce, but we still do want to provide the customer with their own tracking number so that they can, track the status and keep updated. So on our side, basically, if we identify a duplicate in the system, we will still create a service request, but we won't generate that work order. And we'll basically parent this request to another request, and its status will be updated kind of in sync. So just a really great way to make sure that we're not flooding departments with a ton of work, while also making sure that each customer gets their own individual service request number and can keep in the loop on that. Because I can see here on the map that these 2 points are across the street, so because it's a graffiti request, it's probably not the same building. I'm going to go ahead and indicate that this service request is not a duplicate. So on the back end, this is going to go ahead and generate that work. Continuing down, we've got some flex questions that we're going to answer. So these are questions that will help the division when they go out and do that work. So like Derek was just talking about, sometimes, a graffiti crew might need a 6-foot truck versus 8-foot truck or a 12-foot truck. This is where we can really get that information from the customer to hopefully speed up the divisional processes, like asking them, is the graffiti more than 8 feet above the ground? So I'm going to go ahead and answer these questions really quickly. Over here on the right, we have kind of some light scripting. So these are just kind of FYI things for the agent to know that the customer might ask about, or they might have further questions. This is making it really easy for them to reference those key talking points as they are intaking the request. As we continue down, we've got some participant information. So we can take down, customer information, and on the back end, when we save the request, we will tie up all of the participant and contact data so that we can link your request that you created today with your request that you create tomorrow based on email, phone, unique identifiers like that. But for right now, I'm just going to submit this anonymously. So we are going to go ahead and save this request. So as you can see, this is a pretty streamlined intake process. Definitely can be more complex, eligibility checks or that sort of thing, but this keeps it pretty simple for the agent. So this is the case. And so this is the point at which we've generated a work order, which is going either to the downstream systems through integration, through middleware, or a direct connection, through FSL, field service lightning, if we need to do service appointments or something like that, or kind of like what Derek was saying, just directly managed within Salesforce is kind of like the standardized platform. So in this event, this is just going to be managed directly within Salesforce. So the crews and everyone will have access to this work order and can go ahead and close it out. Now, the key thing that I'm going to go do here is set the activity outcome. So this is a line item. So this represents a step in the process. First, we are going to go ahead and do an inspection. And when the person went out and did an inspection, we'll see a couple different kind of outcomes that could happen here. And this will actually be shown to the customer on the community portal to let them know what happened with their service request. So in this event, perhaps, I know this is a big thing in Chicago, graffiti, or what's looks like graffiti, might actually be registered artwork that obviously we don't want to blast. So we will, check that against existing, artwork registrations and make sure we're not destroying a piece of art. So, kind of in an old state, if you said that the request was completed, but there's, the graffiti still on the wall, that's going to cause a lot of confusion for the customer because they think their problem hasn't been taken care of. But through using activity outcomes, we can really kind of let them know the story of what happened. And, if it differs from what they were expecting, we can kind of lay that out all out there for them proactively instead of them being confused and kind of in the dark about what happened. So I'm going to go ahead and save this inspection, which is going to close it out since no further work is needed because it is that registered artwork. And now if I jump over to the community portal side, you can see here, if I go into my service request and I go ahead and check the status, you can see my recent request here for graffiti. And down here, it says that it's completed. And then down here in the inspection, it also says, this is registered artwork we will not remove. So really closing that communication loop with the customer and letting them know exactly what happened with their service request. Now I'm going to switch gears really quickly to show you guys what submitting a service request through the community portal side looks like, making it a lot easier for people to submit their own requests instead of jamming up the throne one lines, especially when things are very busy. So on my kind of initiation page, I can drill down through categories. If I kind of know, okay, this is like an issue with my building, I can drill down. So roads and transportation, I can drill down into several different categories, or I can actually search by a keyword, description, or just name of the request. So I'm just going to go ahead and search for pothole here, and I will create my request. In the first step, you'll see that this experience is very, very similar to the agent experience, and that is intentional. We wanted to keep them very, very similar to each other, so they're really being guided throughout the same steps. So the first step is going to be providing the address where the problem is. And as you can see over here on the right, I have my map already kind of centered around Indianapolis. So if I double click, I can actually manipulate this map. So say I don't know the exact address, but I kind of know, it's close to a park or Lucas Oil Stadium or something like that. I can drag it around and it's going to reverse geocode that for me. So I don't even need to kind of like look up the address or anything like that. So I'm going to confirm that. And then we are brought to the what page. So these are those intake questions. So I'm going to answer, where it's located, how big the pothole is, those types of things. If there's damage to my vehicle, we can prompt them for additional information about, what exactly happened. Additional information. And we can also additionally let them upload a picture. So if they, the graffiti or the pothole or whatever it is, they can actually upload that at the same time so that the city has it on file and can use it as a reference in fulfilling the service. Go ahead and click next. Again, we've got our participant screen. So once this gets saved, it would go through that dupe check, identify any matching contacts in the system, and then tie them all up together. But I'm just going to be anonymous for this one. And I'll click next again. Finally, we have a summary screen, so we can see kind of all of the information that I've entered, and I can actually make modifications to any of it if I need to, as well as add any additional information that I would like the city to know. And then after that, I will go ahead and finish. and my service request has been created and it is instantly in Salesforce. And if I submitted a email address along with my information, I would also receive an email or a text message letting me know what my request number is. And then finally, to close it all out, the customer can keep track of everything that's happening with the request at any time just by looking it up on the community portal. This is kind of what it looks like when it's in progress. So you can really see each step of the process that needs to happen as well as the activity outcomes. So that is a speed demo of 3-in-1. So I will pass it back over to you, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And there's so much more to these solutions, but we really had a limited amount of time. So we wanted to just kind of give everybody a small high level flavor of sort of the process and the mechanisms behind the scenes. So, I think with that being said, that concludes our webinar today. Maureen, did you have anything else as far as final words or statements to close us out here?
Thank you so much, everybody, for participating today. We really appreciate your time. And thank you so much to Derek and Gary for sharing your stories with everybody. It's very helpful to hear from, your peers and other people. And we consider you all trailblazers in the Salesforce community for, being early on to leverage our platform for 3-in-1. And so happy to see that you've received a lot of benefits and really positives. It's great to hear that people can actually use it as a portal to thank the employees because, people forget sometimes that, the employee engagement side of it is a really nice benefit and halo effect as well as how it benefits them and how it also elevates their skill set as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. And just look forward to engaging with you and please, reach out through Tim and, Karasoft and myself, and we'll be happy to connect you with the right resources that you need to start to move forward and explore this process.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I echo those sentiments. I mean, everybody's super busy. Gary, Derek, I can't thank you guys enough for joining this with us. I appreciate your thought leadership and guidance throughout these processes. So we're forever indebted to both of you.
Very welcome.
So I think with that being said, that concludes our session for the day. Thank you everyone for joining us. It was an honor and a privilege to be able to present to you today. And we really thank you for your time and participation in the event.